Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about our Clipper snowstorm for the Northeast, as well as a warm-up for the work week before the Arctic air arrives, as a massive storm potentially is brewing, as the models are in full chaos mode right now. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. Good morning, everyone. This is your Saturday, November the 27th update. And what we're looking at here is the overall snowfall accumulations over the last couple of days. So we had some snow up here in Idaho and Montana, up in their higher terrains of Wyoming, and then into Colorado. It didn't quite make it into Denver, but Breckenridge picked up about 7 inches over the last couple days. And then we've had our Clipper system that's actually kind of overperformed the last 24 hours, brought some really heavy lake enhanced snow for these areas. And some of these totals are fairly impressive right now, and we're going to be adding to these totals into the days ahead. So let's look at some of the totals so far, and these little dots here right along here, Lake Erie, you can definitely see 1 to 2 inches, a good 2 to 4. Again, this snowstorm really hasn't really started yet. Technically, it's going to be sporadic over the next couple of days, but some of these amounts in here in New York, and especially into Vermont here, we've got some yellow dots of 6 to 8 inches, and there's a couple of them that are 8 to 12 inches. So there's several locations that have picked up double-digit snowfall totals so far into portions of New York as well as Vermont. With some heavier snows, you're going to be moving in later on today, and even into the day on Monday. So let's go over the rain amounts, what's happened over the last 72 hours as well. Obviously, we've had that atmospheric river continue to pummel the Pacific Northwest, and then sporadic showers, and most of this actually fell in the form of snow. We did pick up a little dusting or two into the Southwest region, but we had that cold front where it brought some heavier rains to East Texas. And then on Thanksgiving, actually Houston had a record rainfall, both at Hobby and Bush Intercontinental Airport. So that was a record rainfall for them for Thanksgiving Day. But along that cold front, it brought, a ½ inch to 1 inch amounts in parts of the Southeast, as well as the Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley here. So as we move in through the temperatures of what we've seen so far for the month of November, and you can definitely see this is the average mean. So you're talking the average low between the average high, and what it all does that equate to over the last 27 days. And how all that shakes out is a little bit above average for much of the West, where it's been predominantly dry out here. So we need some precipitation in the midsection of the country, but this pattern just continues to creep and basically say the same thing over and over again, because a lot of the colder anomalies are pretty much into the Ohio Valley, into the Southeast, and into Florida. So they're definitely not complaining out there. And some of these areas are experiencing, almost like December, January type temperatures. And this is only November. So, and all the colder anomalies are going to be predominantly over the next 4 or 5 days, same places where they've seen them pretty much all month long. So this pattern really just continues to say the same thing, where a lot of the colder anomalies are more or less into our eastern part of the U.S. and all the warmer air is out west. But now we're going to make a transition. So today we've got that Clipper system. And so we've showed you the snowfall totals that we already had so far. And we're just going to be adding to these. The good thing is we do have a disturbance that's coming out of West Texas. That's going to swing over into portions of North Texas and Central Texas and bring a pretty good soaking. We're talking light to moderate rain, but it's going to be a slow soaker rain. So we could be picking up a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch, an inch. Is not out of the question. A lot of these areas into Texas, and then we've got that Clipper system that we're going to be dealing with. It's going to be dumping some heavier snows into portions of Wisconsin, into Michigan, going through portions of Ohio, into Pennsylvania, into New York, and then getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, into Maine. So let's go over some of these totals. So here's some of the snowfall estimates on top of what you've actually seen already. So between now and Tuesday for the end of the month, so we're talking places like Green Bay, Wisconsin, 2.5 inches, more or less Mount Pleasant here, about 2.8 inches, Grand Rapids, Michigan, 2.3 inches, Flint, Michigan, about 3 inches. So it just kind of gives you an idea. In Detroit, about 3.5 inches. So if we move over to Ohio, we're talking places like Toledo, maybe an inch and a half. Getting towards Cleveland, a little bit closer to the lake, about 4 inches in Cleveland, Ohio. Akron, Ohio, about 2.5 inches. You know, you start getting into over here into portions of Pennsylvania, going into places like Pittsburgh. We're talking maybe like 1 or 2 inches. But closer by the lake in Lake Erie, Erie, Pennsylvania, 7 inches. So there's definitely no stranger to pick up some very impressive snowfall totals. I mean, even some years, I think you picked up almost 200 inches in this city. So it's they get a lot of snow there. But yeah, places like Williamsport, 2 inches. State College, about 2 inches. You start getting into Scranton, 1 to 2 inches from this particular system, but not much by the coast. Or Philly, maybe a dusting or two. Same thing with New York City. We're not expecting too much snow. A lot of the heavier snows are going to be towards the higher elevations and into Albany. Maybe Boston might pick up an inch out of this deal with this Clipper system. You get towards you get into Vermont, New Hampshire, Vermont area, say in the Burlington, about 2 inches. Hanover, about 2 inches. You go into places into Bangor, Maine, about 5 inches. So it kind of gives you an idea where some of these snowfall estimates are expected to fall between now and Tuesday, what you're going to be picking up from these sporadic snow showers, this kind of Clipper system that's going to be coming in. And the heaviest amounts are going to be, coming in this afternoon, especially into the overnight hours tonight for your Saturday. But the big thing is next week, man, we've got that massive surge in heat. We're gonna be pretty warm for a good chunk of the country. It's been warm out west, but that warm air is going to continue to push a little bit further off into the east. Well, we got all that Arctic air that's really building into the Alaska and to Canada. We've been showing you for the past couple of weeks. So we got to get through this warm-up phase. This has been pretty evident. It's been showing up in a lot of models for the last week or two. Yeah, with this warm-up phase, it doesn't appear it's coming. It doesn't appear it's going to last that long, because we do have pulses of energy that's going to be coming down, and that's what's making these models going to basically full-blown chaos. We're going into the transition. We're going out of fall, and we're going into meteorologically winter. We're going into a kind of a warmer phase 6 on the MJO, and then we're going into a much colder phase 7 on the MJO. So there's a lot of moving parts of the upper atmosphere, the upper dynamics of the atmosphere. So these models are in kind of full chaos mode. But we do have a storm signal. The storm signal is essentially the 4th, the 5th, the 6th for the Northeast. We do have a massive storm that's potentially brewing. Now, where it's going to take shape and where it sets up can make a huge impact on the snowfall totals, what may lie from this particular system. Because yesterday on the European model, this trough digged way down to the south. And obviously, if it digged way down into the southeast, that pulled up a lot of energy. And it was going to be able to dig and form a low off the coast and create a pretty good snowstorm. The update for today cuts it off. I mean, it cuts it off well to the north up into Wisconsin, into Illinois and Indiana, going in. It didn't even reach anywhere near the Tennessee Valley with the latest update. But the GFS continues to have that system and push it down a little bit further into the northeast and push it all the way through and create a little bit bigger snowfall event for them. But yeah, if the European played out obviously yesterday with this particular system, we would have a low pressure system off the coast of the east off the coast of the Atlantic here, and then really pull in that that Arctic surge, and then much colder air in the backside, and dump some very heavy snows well out ahead of it. So if this particular situation plays out, yeah, this would be an impressive snowstorm for a good chunk of the Northeast. But the latest update, man, look at that. Look at the models are basically literally in full chaos mode. Because of the cutoff, it doesn't dig it anywhere near further south. It cuts it well to the north and zaps all that energy on basically the exact same time frame that what you just saw 12 hours before. So you can definitely see, I know this is a week out, but that's why what we're dealing with, we're trying to forecast these events of what some of the models show this long out. So you really can't predict accurate snowfall totals a week out with these particular systems, because it all really depends on how it phases and how it all comes together. But for right now, you want to kind of use the blend of all the models. Here's the latest update from the GFS with that particular system. It still has it, but it slows it down a little bit, and it comes in through Illinois, comes through Michigan, comes through Indiana, goes through Ohio, and upstate New York with this low pressure system. So it's still there. It just might be about 12 hours behind the latest European, and then that would dig it down by next weekend, going into Sunday the 5th, with this really trough and that low pressure system coming off the coast here, and you get that wraparound moisture. So it would feed into Kentucky, feed into the Ohio Valley, going into Pennsylvania, as well as up to upstate New York. And then you could have some transition to a little bit of ice before it makes that transition to all snow by the time we get into. But yeah, if that European model played out yesterday, that would be an impressive snowstorm for next weekend with some serious double-digit totals. It's definitely not out of the question, but you can see what we're going through right now with the models more or less in full chaos mode, trying to depict on exactly where this low pressure system is going to play out. The storm signal's there. The storm signal is going to happen between December 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, where it phases and where it pulls through and it comes off the coast, that's the uncertainty currently right now. So this particular system would almost have a full-blown blizzard for yesterday, with some double-digit totals, a good foot and a half, even 2 feet in a lot of these areas, even upwards to 3 feet. So that would be an impressive snowstorm if that would actually play out. But here's the latest update with the phasing that didn't pull through. Yeah, we're talking a completely different situation, right? So that would be a completely different situation. We're talking 2, 4, 6 inches of snow with a lot of these areas. But the latest GFS has a little bit more congruency with it. I mean, it's been pretty much the same at the last several runs. And I'll show you the blend of all the models too, and that's kind of what you want to use this far out. But here's the latest, the GFS on this particular would put several inches of snow into Pennsylvania, going into New York, and a lot of the heavier amounts would be in upstate New York, again in Vermont, New Hampshire, a lot of the ski country out there. And then the latest update on all the blend of all the models. So this is kind of gives you between all the models of the Canadian, the Icon model, the GFS, the European model, kind of a blend of all the models. Yeah, it still has a pretty impressive snowstorm, no question. So this definitely has a lot of potential to be a pretty big snowstorm for this region. It just depends on where that low comes off the coast for next week. But right now, the blend of the models has a good chunk of West Virginia, going into Ohio, going into especially into Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, by the coast of Massachusetts, some in Connecticut, going into Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as into Maine, with some double-digit totals, especially into our northern areas. But for the rest of the country, with that massive warm-up that's going to be coming for the good chunk of the country, that just cuts off a lot of precipitation. So all the rains that's going to happen this week, from the week ahead, is going to be in Texas, but that comes today. But after that, it's high and dry with a good amount of sun for a good chunk of the country, from Texas to California to Colorado, the good midsection of the country, New Mexico, Kansas, Missouri. There's not technically much going on. The story for the week is gonna be that we have that clipper system that's coming in this weekend, yes, for the Northeast. Then we have a pretty massive warm-up that's coming ahead of this Arctic surge that's going to be happening, probably like the second week of December. So we are in a big transition week coming up next week with all the heavier rains well to the north, into the Pacific Northwest with that atmospheric river. And then, again, a lot of this is going to be forming in the form of snow up here into the Northeast. So I will definitely, make heads or tails with this model situation coming up for next weekend with this big snow event that's potentially on the table for the Northeast for that December 4th, 5th, and 6th time frame. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you for and after the storm.